Good day. It's November 10th, 2025. In a growing sign of American voters pushing back against Trump's policies, Democratic candidates continue to win among independent voters, a potential harbinger of more bad news for Republicans in the 2026 midterm elections. I'm Maribel Villanueva. Welcome to The Pulse. Last week, in two gubernatorial elections, Democratic candidates defeated Republicans in open seat contests in the states of Virginia and New Jersey. In Virginia, Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger secured 57.4% of the vote with 95% of ballots counted, while Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears received 42.4%, a decisive 15-point margin. Spanberger will become the first woman ever elected governor of Virginia. Earle-Sears was the first black woman to serve as the state's lieutenant governor. However, according to some observers and exit polls, Earle-Sears' campaign messaging, which included disputed job numbers and talking points on Medicaid cutbacks, closely resembled Trump's rhetoric and ultimately did not go well for her. Spanberger's victory in Virginia was not the only good news for Democrats. It's also signaled voters' growing dissatisfaction with Republicans during Trump's second presidency. The voters of Virginia voted for the first Muslim woman to become the lieutenant governor. She was the first Muslim woman to be elected to statewide office. Also, as to make another point to the Trump administration, Virginians unseated the incumbent state attorney general, Jason Miyares, the Republican, who is a first-generation Cuban American. The state attorney general position in Trump's second presidency has been the most important in pushing back against the president's policy. State after state have filed lawsuits against the Trump administration on many of his executive orders relating to immigration, Medicaid, firing of employees, National Guard deployment, and many others. Even in Nevada, where the governor is a Republican, the state attorney general, who is Democrat, was busy filing lawsuits to protect the people of Nevada. Also, in last week's election, New Jersey elected Mikey Sherrill, a Democrat, as governor against Jack Ciattarelli, a Republican, former member of the state assembly from 2011 to 2018. Mikey Sherrill is an incumbent congresswoman for New Jersey's District 11, former naval officer and a federal prosecutor. In California, Proposition 50 on the ballot, which authorizes the state legislature to redraw the congressional district in mid-decade, was approved by the voters. It was Governor Newsom's idea to push back against the unusual move by the Texas legislature to redraw the map in the middle of the 10-year census to satisfy Trump's demand for additional 5 Republican majority congressional districts to combat the Democrats' big likelihood of taking a majority in the House of Representatives in the 2026 midterm election. This type of behavior to gerrymander districts for the Republicans in the mid-decade was started by Texas Republicans and can happen in 3 other states like Ohio, Indiana, and Missouri. But in New Hampshire, where the governor is a Republican and the legislature holds a Republican majority, this state will not follow suit. Governor Ayotte rejected the idea, and proposal brought forward by the lower chamber was withdrawn. That is why even state elections matter to the nation. They play an important role in shaping national politics, such as determining each state's party's representation. This is especially significant if the U.S. Supreme Court were to end the Voting Rights Act, as some have speculated might align with Trump's and the Republicans' preferences. In New York City, Democratic Socialist candidate Zohran Mamdani won the election for mayor of the world's largest city against a fellow Democrat, Andrew Cuomo, who was a New York State governor, who resigned amid multiple sexual harassment allegations. What makes Zohran Mamdani's victory significant for America is his unique background. His parents are Muslims from India. He was born in Uganda and later immigrated to the United States with his family. Mamdani's paternal grandparents, originally from Bombay, were part of the Indian and South Asian diaspora that settled in East Africa during British colonial rule in the Indian subcontinent. Mamdani, before entering politics, made music videos in Uganda, as was accustomed in his place of birth. The Republican Party and the White House couldn't do much to intervene in New York City's politics, except pardoning Mayor Adams, who was facing criminal charges. He ran again for mayor of New York, which New Yorkers saw as Trump's candidate, but withdrew his candidacy a few weeks before the election, when he was polling very low against Mamdani and former Governor Cuomo. In Nevada, another of Trump's appointees to the Justice Department, U.S. Attorney Sigal Chattah, was disqualified by federal judge David Campbell of the Nevada District Court on October 4th from her position as acting U.S. Attorney. The judge ruled that she had exceeded the 120-day limit for serving in an acting capacity as outlined by federal regulations, similar to the case of Alina Habba, who had served as acting U.S. Attorney for New Jersey. Acting U.S. attorneys had to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate within the 120 days from being appointed in an acting capacity. But last week, Judge Campbell paused his order as the DOJ appeals the case. In his opinion last Thursday, Judge Campbell said he stood by his ruling, but staying his earlier ruling as the court recognizes the deference and respect it should have for the executive branch, just as the executive branch should have deference and respect for the judiciary. The ruling means that Sigal Chattah will temporarily be able to get involved in certain cases that her office is prosecuting, while the appellate court weighs an appeal from the U.S. Justice Department. Both the DOJ and the group that filed the disqualification lawsuit had requested the appeals court to expedite the case. For our audience in the Philippines and abroad, the U.S. Attorney is the chief federal prosecutor for each judicial district. For example, Los Angeles is the Central District of California for judicial purposes. New York City is in the Southern District of New York's jurisdiction. Here's a list of U.S. attorneys appointed by Trump that had been found to be serving illegally due to expiration of their 120 days term. 1 is Bilal Asaili of the Central District of California. 2 is Alina Habba of the District of New Jersey. And 3 is Sigal Chattah of the District of Nevada. Former Vice President Dick Cheney died last week at the age of 84. During the time of the presidency of George W. Bush, analysts have said that Cheney was calling the shots on shaping U.S. foreign policy in the interest of big companies in Texas, the home state of the Bush family. Journalists and analysts have named Cheney for starting the global war on terror, which helped shape U.S. foreign policy in West Asia and the Middle East, in which many have said he was the mastermind behind the exaggerated story of weapons of mass destruction of Saddam Hussein and the start of the Iraq War, in which the aftermath of the overthrow of Saddam Hussein, the Arab country who thrown into instability and gave rise to new Islamic terrorist organizations to wreak havoc in the region like ISIS. His daughter Liz Cheney, a former congresswoman from Iowa, was among the Republicans like Adam Kinzinger, also a former congressman, leading efforts in holding Trump accountable and unify anti-Trump Republicans against him. We're going to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned for our world news.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Hi, my name is Jessica Jicosalamrola. I am here sharing some exciting Pulse community news. I represent PhilMTV as your station manager here in Las Vegas, and I will be in person at the Via Brazil Steakhouse at their Summerlin location on Fort Apache Road Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m., November 13th. There will be over 90 attendees who are already registered, ready to hopefully meet me. I will be sharing some news about PhilMTV, advertising opportunities with guests, and we are super excited to be there.
We use headphones as a part of our everyday lives. Whether we're at work, getting exercise, meditating, in transit, studying, practicing, or relaxing.
Hi, I'm Ryan Sway, the founder of Aircom. I would like to introduce the world's first wireless airflow audio earbuds. As a festival and a concert junkie, I really enjoy the live experience of being there and feeling the music. When we started developing Airflow, our goal was to reproduce that live experience using earbuds.
The problem with traditional headphones is that the speakers are located inside of the earpiece, literally giving you centimeters before the audio hits your eardrum.
What Aircom is doing, they're the first company to actually address the fact that there needs to be a space involved associated with having the sound waves expand fully.
The difference between traditional headphones and Aircom audio is that the air tube gives you 8 times more space, allowing the sound waves to fully develop before they actually hit your eardrums. And this gives it a much more live, natural sound, just like in a recording studio.
It's real nice that someone actually addressed the physics associated with how sound comes out.
The challenge we had was to create an earbud with enough airspace for the sound to fully develop and breathe. Unfortunately, traditional earbuds are about the size of a jelly bean, and there's just not enough airspace. However, that changed when we developed Airflow Audio. Airflow uses an air tube to deliver 6 to 8 times more airspace than traditional earbuds. The end result is a true live listening experience, just like you're at a festival or a concert. We also added magnets to the back of the earpieces so you can wear it around your neck when you're not using it.
Being that the drivers are 8 inches from the earpiece, the magnets do not affect the integrity of the sound at all.
The orange line represents the frequency transmitting through the wire to the speaker, which then converts to the blue sound wave that develops more as it travels up the air tube, producing a balanced, full body and live listening experience.
Another really cool feature is that these earbuds are sweat-proof and water-resistant because they're coated with a super hydrophobic nanotechnology. So now you can be on a skateboard or riding a motorcycle and listen to music as if you were watching a live show or actually in a recording studio.
We're coming to you for help in bringing these unparalleled earbuds to market.
Hi, my name is Jessica Gicosa-Lamrola. I am here sharing some exciting Pulse community news. I represent PhilMTV as your station manager here in Las Vegas, and I will be in person at the Via Brazil Steakhouse at their Summerlin location on Fort Apache Road Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m., November 13th. There will be over 90 attendees who are already registered, ready to hopefully meet me. I will be sharing some news about PhilMTV, advertising opportunities with guests, and we are super excited to be there.
With the many recent changes and focus on immigration law, now more than ever is the time to seek the help you need from an attorney you can trust. As an immigrant myself, I know the many difficulties and hardships involved in immigrating to this great country. With more than 10 years of experience in handling immigration cases, our firm can provide the necessary answers and solutions to your needs. Call Calderon Law today so we can work together to help you get the peace of mind you and your loved ones deserve.
Welcome back to The Pulse. In our world news, France suspends access to Shein shopping platform as the shop opens its first location in Paris, according to Associated Press. Following a scandal around sex dolls with juvenile characters that were discovered featured on the fast fashion giant's website, the French government announced on Wednesday that it has begun the process of suspending access to Shein's online platform until the company demonstrates that its materials comply with French laws. The Finance Ministry made the decision in a statement on the same day Shein launched its first permanent store location in Paris, inside one of the most recognizable department stores in the capital. The opening drew hundreds of consumers and protesters to the BHV Marais, including a small number of activists brandishing anti-Shein placards who briefly disturbed the opening day before being hauled out by security. The ministry did not indicate whether its decision will have an impact on the physical store or explain why it made the decision. It simply stated that a first progress report would be made within the next 48 hours. In response, Shein promised to collaborate with French authorities to address any concerns as quickly as we have always done, and we're seeking dialogue with the authorities and government bodies on the issue. French authorities have the legal authority to require web platforms to remove blatantly illegal content, such as child pornography, within 24 hours. If they do not comply, authorities may order internet service providers and search engines to prohibit access and delist the site, said Shein in a statement. Following the government statement, access to and orders from Shein's website in French remained possible on Wednesday. Frédéric Merlin, president of the Société des Grands Magasins, which controls BHV, hailed the government's decision, noting that Shein had already decided to halt its marketplace. I am satisfied with this decision, and I hope that, in the end, we will be able to stop selling illicit products on these marketplaces, Merlin told the crowd. An online petition against the Paris opening has received over 120,000 signatures, and several dozen protesters gathered outside the BHV department store on Wednesday morning. However, vast throngs of shoppers showed up undeterred. Tisha Ones, a regular Shein online client based in Paris, stated the major reason she visited the store was to examine products in person before making a purchase. The SGM condemned the selling of the sex dolls, but complimented Shein for its quick response to defuse the situation. The BHV has been struggling financially in recent years, and SGM hopes Shein's entrance will help revitalize sales, even though some businesses have chosen to leave the shop in protest. We are proud to have a partner who has spoken out firmly, stated SGM's Chief Operating Officer, Carl Stefan Cotendan. We are very happy to be opening the boutique. In a report from Al Jazeera, the hunger problem in South Sudan has worsened due to violence and flooding. According to a worldwide hunger monitor, more than 7.55 million people in South Sudan would suffer from malnutrition during next year's lean season, which runs from April to July. The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, a United Nations-backed food security watchdog, issued a grim warning on Tuesday, predicting that hunger will deteriorate substantially in the coming months as war between competing political factions escalates and global relief funding dwindles. The assessment comes as the country is on the verge of civil war after President Salva Kiir suspended his primary political adversary, First Vice President Riek Machar, who faces treason accusations. According to the IPC, around 5.97 million South Sudanese, or 42% of the population studied, are currently suffering from acute malnutrition. Approximately 28,000 people in Lukpini, Nasir, and Fangak are already designated as living in catastrophic conditions, the IPC's most severe category because of ongoing violence and flooding. 6 counties are expected to experience the highest level of acute malnutrition in 2026, owing mostly to conflict-related displacement and limited access to food, water, and health services, as well as spreading cholera outbreak, according to the report. More than 2.1 million children under the age of 5, as well as 1.15 million pregnant and lactating mothers, will be at risk of acute malnutrition by June 2026, the report states. The high severity of acute food insecurity in South Sudan is a great concern, requiring an immediate and large-scale response to save lives, according to the IPC report. In the same report, humanitarian access remains one of the most urgent challenges. In many parts of the country, violence, looting, and flooding brought by the monsoon season have isolated entire villages for months. This is an alarming trajectory, stated Mary Ellen McGroarty, the World Food Programme's country director in South Sudan. The continuous hunger levels are highly disturbing. People have begun to recover in areas where peace has been established and actors have consistent access to resources. While this development is encouraging, we must maintain the momentum to guarantee long-term good change for all affected areas, she added. The hunger emergency is the result of a series of catastrophes. According to estimates from the International Committee of the Red Cross, renewed fighting between government forces and Machar-aligned militias have killed about 2,000 people this year and displaced over 445,000. Since gaining independence in 2011, South Sudan has experienced civil conflict, weak peace agreements, and continued political instability, resulting in a number of humanitarian situations. Within 2 years of independence, President Kiir, from the main Dinka ethnic group, fired Machar and Nuer from the country's second largest population, sparking a civil war along ethnic lines that killed an estimated 400,000 people. In a BBC report, Trump has expressed uncertainty that the United States will go to war with Venezuela. Donald Trump has downplayed the idea of a U.S.-Venezuela war, but has warned that Nicolas Maduro's days as president are numbered. When asked if the U.S. would go to war with Venezuela, the president told CBS 60 Minutes, "I doubt it. I do not think so. But they've been treating us extremely terribly. For 2 months, the U.S. military has been assembling a fleet of warships, fighter jets, bombers, marine drones, and surveillance planes in the Caribbean Sea. This is the largest deployment there in decades." The United States also continues to launch strikes against alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean. The Trump administration claims the strikes are vital to stop the flow of drugs into the United States. Trump denied that the U.S. action was aimed at toppling Maduro, a longtime Trump opponent, and instead said it was about many things. Since early September, U.S. strikes in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific have killed at least 64 people, according to CBS News, the BBC's U.S. news partner. Speaking from his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, Trump stated, "Every single boat that you see that is shot down kills 25,000 people on drugs and destroys families all over our country." When asked if the U.S. planned any ground strikes, Trump declined to rule it out, saying, "I wouldn't be inclined to say that I would do that. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do with Venezuela, if I was going to do it or if I wasn't going to do it." Long-range bomber jets, B-52s, have conducted bomber attack demonstrations off the coast of Venezuela. Trump has ordered the CIA's deployment to Venezuela, and the world's largest aircraft carrier is headed to the region. Maduro has already accused Washington of fabricating a new war, while Colombian President Gustavo Petro said, "The U.S. is using the boat strikes to dominate Latin America." Trump stated that the government was not going to allow people from all over the world to enter. They come in from the Congo. They come in from all over the world. They're coming not just from South America. But Venezuela in particular has been bad. They have gangs, he said, singling out Tren de Aragua. He called it the most vicious gang anywhere in the world. Trump was also questioned on nuclear testing, following his call for U.S. military commanders to resume testing nuclear weapons in order to keep up with countries such as Russia and China. When asked by CBS Norah O'Donnell if he intended for the U.S. to detonate a nuclear bomb for the first time in almost 30 years, Trump replied, "I'm saying that we're going to test nuclear weapons like other countries, yes." However, Energy Secretary Chris Wright sought to assuage world fears by telling Fox News that the United States has no plans to undertake nuclear explosions. We will leave it at that as we are out of time for this edition. Please join us again next week. On behalf of Sam Buban and Philam TV, I'm Maribel Villanueva. Thank you for watching and God bless your week.